Hi, I'm still in the Philippines and we're getting ready. It's the rainy season here, by the way. It rains 2 or 3 times a week. So we're getting ready to go back for the wonderful, good summer weather back in Europe. And well, maybe I'll do one or two more videos here, but then from then on, it'll be Europe. Okay, the title today is Debt. Debt, yeah, it means owing people money, is a two-way street. It can be the road to riches or the road to poverty. Now, since you want to avoid the road to poverty, I'll take that road briefly. And I'll tell you that the road to poverty is consumer debt. What is consumer debt? It's when you borrow money, the time payment plan, to buy something that is going to be worthless either immediately or in the next year or two. Now, let's take a car, for instance. If you're buying a car just for leisure, you buy it for $30,000 or the equivalent in your own currency. And the minute you take it out of the showroom, it's worth one third less. Now, you can't call that an investment, even if the salesperson tells you that. I was looking at a massage chair, and the salesperson was telling me, "Oh, this is a wonderful investment." I said, "How could it be an investment?" "Oh, your investment is in your health. It's going to massage your back and your butt and your legs, and you'll feel so good." No, sorry, a massage chair is not an investment, especially if it's new. Now, if you're going to get a $10,000 massage chair for 1,000 because somebody is moving and it's an emergency or distress sale, okay, uh, you probably in a few years will be able to sell it for 1,000 or even a profit. But remember, most consumer debt, where you buy something that has no income, is the road to poverty, and that is why uh, in many countries, when people purchase so-called status symbols, I won't say any brand names, but they get a shirt that has one of them on it. I'm not mentioning brand names, but when you buy a status symbol, whether it's sunglasses or you see my status symbol watch here, uh, when you buy something like that, uh, it's you're on the road to poverty because if it doesn't make you any income and you buy something, especially if it's expensive, uh, you're taking a big loss on it. Furniture, for instance, a very expensive $2,000 sofa is immediately worth about $100 as used furniture. And jewelry, guess what? I learned long ago that there's what they call a keystone markup. That means in jewelry stores, the wholesale price of jewelry is 7 times. Can you believe that? 7 times the uh, retail cost. So if you buy something retail, jewelry usually, diamonds or pearls or uh, gold necklaces, uh, you can only sell it back to the buyer for 1/7. That's 16 2/3% for you mathematicians out there. So consumer spending and borrowing to buy consumer goods is a big, big, big mistake. And not only that, the interest that people pay with the penalties on credit card debt can be as high as 36% a year. A bit crazy, huh? Okay, now, how about debt being the way or the road to riches? I had a friend who was very interested in the stock market. And he said, well, the long term return on stocks is about 9 or 10% a year. Well, I'll dispute that, but let's say that's right. And he said in the long term return on real estate is closer to 4%. Well, here's where he's wrong, and this is how I made a lot of money. If I can buy an empty lot, and let's just take made up money. If I have $20,000 and I can buy a lot in a big city that has in a residential area, and I can put little signs up and make it into parking spaces, and for that 20,000 that I invest, I can make maybe probably 10,000 a year. Now there'll be taxes and expenses, but let's say I'm making 50% a year. But now I go to a bank and I borrow the $20,000 needed for that empty lot that I'm going to turn into a parking lot. And guess what? I borrow the money at, well, I used to get it for 2%. Now probably I'm going to pay 5%. But 5% of 20,000 is 1,000, right? Sure, that's easy math. And remember, I said I'm making 10,000 from my parking space rents. That was actually my very first deal when I was 16 years old. I bought an empty lot near where we lived. I've made it into parking spaces, and with a bank loan, guess how much I'm making as a percentage return on my money? Well, since I have no money, I'm making infinity. Infinity. In other words, I'm paying out 1,000 and I'm making 9,000 a year just because I bought an empty lot, made it into, I turned a lemon into a grapefruit, my old boss Zeckendorf used to say. But the idea is if you can get property and turn it into something a little better with a coat of paint or some little signs, you can get rents, and then you can borrow the money that covers the cost entirely. Well, that is definitely the road to riches. Now, is there a risk? Sure, there's always a risk. Supposing all the cars vanish tomorrow because of self-driving and you have no more tenants. Well, now you still have the bank loan and nothing to pay it with. But under my calculation with my parking lot deal, I could have paid off the loan in a year or two. And so that wasn't really a risk. But you know what? Uh, when the COVID epidemic hit and people stayed home from work, office building occupancy went down by more than 50%. And so if you owned an office building with a big loan on it and your rents all of a sudden dropped by 50%, you were really stuck. And so that's the one-way street to poverty, because there's always some kind of risk out there and you have to anticipate that risk. And that's why when you get to be an old geezer like me, you pay down your debt and you try to be, I would say at age 60, you should start paying your debts down. And by age 65, you should be debt free. So then you don't have any risk at all. If your office building or your parking lot or whatever it is you own, the rent drops dramatically, you can still hold on to it. While if you have a big loan and mortgage payments, you can't. Okay, so in the real estate business, a property that eats more, or I should say, needs more money than it brings in is called an alligator. And so sometimes when you're a broker, a real estate broker is trying to sell your property, he's going to say, "Oh, you're going to make your money on the appreciation of the property." Well, maybe you will, but the appreciation doesn't pay the loan. Get it? So if you own an alligator and your rental payment, your rents are $1,000 a year, and your mortgage is $2,000 a year, and your taxes are high, you will lose that property. I actually had a friend who, we're talking 60 years ago. He was the uranium king of Nevada. He had all kinds of cash, and he always said, "Oh, real estate is the greatest." And he bought empty lots. He bought little office buildings. He built a kind of an airport terminal, the airport terminal in Reno, and uh, he paid no attention to his debt because he had this income from his uranium mines and so forth. Guess what? Uranium went to heck in a basket. I can't say any other words like you know what. It, his uranium income stopped. He couldn't service the mortgages, and he went from, in today's money, billionaire status to nothing. So I want to close on the note that wealth is very fleeting, and if you have debts, you can be wiped out quite quickly. So it's up to you to ensure that your income will always more than generously cover your debt. And as to stocks and Bitcoin and most assets that are very subject to fluctuation, the word is volatile. Just remember what happened to Donald Trump this year, 2024. He went public with a lot of his assets, and the newspaper said he was worth 4 million more than he had been the day before. But the stock market evaporated within a few days, and he was down 3 million. So uh, keep that in mind. And if you want more information, ask your questions in the comments, and I'll try to answer them. Oh, be sure to hit subscribe because that helps me monetize these videos. I must have about 50 videos. And you know how much I've earned? Yeah, that's it. So if you subscribe and put in a like, maybe in another 200 or 300 videos, I'll start making, who knows, big money, $10 a month. Who knows? Okay, I'm going to see you tomorrow. And bye bye from Manila, the Philippines.